Have you ever stopped to think if the music you hear in church is really connecting you with God, or if, without realizing it, it might be pushing you away? In this video, we'll open your eyes to a truth that few talk about: how the devil might be using music to corrupt the church. What seems like mere worship could be leading you down a dangerous path, and you might not even be aware of it. Have you ever felt that strange sensation during worship, as if something was out of place? This could be a sign that something is wrong, and you need to know what it is. If you stay with us until the end, you'll learn how to identify these traps and protect your faith from influences that seem harmless but are extremely dangerous. This video is for those who want to make sure they are worshiping God the right way, without falling into the traps that might be right there, in the songs you sing every week. Stay with us and discover how not to be deceived. Music, a powerful force that resonates in hearts and uplifts souls. In church, it holds a sacred place, directing the spirit in praise to God. But not every melody that echoes through the pews is as pure as it seems. The devil, master of deception, has found in music a means to infiltrate subtle but deeply contrary ideas to biblical teachings. What should be a celebration of the divine often becomes a channel of spiritual corruption. When we examine the lyrics more closely, we discover concepts that deviate from biblical truths. The melody and rhythm, seductive, mask this distortion, allowing it to disguise itself as something harmless. The emotion stirred by music can open doors to accepting practices that do not belong to true Christianity. All under the guise of spirituality. Over time, the congregation may become insensitive to these subtle influences, accepting them as a normal part of worship. And it is through music that corruption can infiltrate souls, invisible and devastating. This is the hidden power of music in the church. A power that, if not recognized and confronted, can transform what is sacred into an instrument of deception. The blending of secular rhythms with worship has become increasingly common in churches today. Some even say it's a strategy to attract and engage young people, which may seem like a good idea at first. But the problem is that these rhythms, typically used in secular settings, may carry a spiritual weight we can't even imagine. Think about it, these rhythms come with baggage that often doesn't align with the essence of worship. The issue is that by incorporating these rhythms into worship, the message of the gospel can end up becoming a bit confusing. Instead of being a moment of sincere connection with God, it might turn into more of a show, a performance, and even entertainment. And that's where the danger lies. When the rhythm becomes the main focus, the message gets lost along the way. This opens up space for the devil to act, corrupting the true meaning of worship and diverting the congregation's attention. Therefore, it is crucial to evaluate the impact of these rhythms on the church's spirituality and always seek worship that keeps Christ at the center, without letting anything shift the focus away from Him. Have you ever thought about the lyrics of the songs we sing in churches? Sometimes, these lyrics seem harmless, but when we take a closer look, we realize they might be far from the true gospel. What seems like a simple worship song might actually be carrying hidden messages. Many modern songs have a self-help or prosperity angle, and we end up singing them without realizing that these concepts don't align with the Bible. And the worst part is that these ideologies can blend with worship and divert the focus from true adoration. So, instead of spiritually building up the congregation, these songs end up confusing and even corrupting what we believe. That's where the devil comes in, using these lyrics to sow doubts and even heresies. He can turn a moment of worship into an opportunity to lead the church away from true faith in Christ. It's not that the songs are ill-intentioned, but a lack of care can open doors to serious problems. Therefore, it is essential that those who choose the music for the church pay attention to the lyrics and ensure they align with the message of the gospel. After all, worship should be a pure reflection of our faith, not a breeding ground for doubts and confusion. Have you noticed how worship has often become a true spectacle? In the past, the focus was entirely on God, but now it seems the attention has shifted to the musicians and singers. It's as if worship has turned into a show, where what matters more is the performance than the actual connection with God. When this happens, the atmosphere changes completely. Instead of being there to truly worship, we become more interested in how the artists are performing. The devil, of course, loves this distraction. He knows that when we start idolizing the musicians, we're diverting our attention from the true focus of our worship. And this can be a serious problem. As the musical spectacle takes center stage, the spiritual experience can become quite shallow. Instead of seeking a deep and true connection with God, we get caught up in the superficial sensations of the show. It's as if the music becomes the star, not God. This shift in focus can really affect our spirituality. Instead of experiencing genuine and meaningful worship, we settle for entertainment. And the worst part is that we don't even realize we're drifting away from the real purpose of worship. So, it's crucial to take a step back and remember that true worship is about God, not the spectacle. Music can be a part of worship, but it shouldn't be the center of it. It's time to refocus and return to worship that truly places God at the center. Many people, even within the church, listen to music that has nothing to do with the Christian message. And that's where things start to get complicated. Secular music often carries messages that are far from biblical values, and this can have a subtle but deep effect on the spiritual life of those who listen. Let's be realistic, the music we listen to has a powerful influence on us. If that music is loaded with ideas and values that go against what the Bible teaches, it's easy to see how it can undermine our faith and morality. It's like we're subtly introducing a bit of spiritual poison into our hearts without even realizing it. We also need to be mindful of the music we listen to outside the church. Have you ever stopped to think whether the music you listen to in your daily life might be impacting your spiritual life in ways you can't imagine? Let's start with heavy metal and hard rock. These styles are known for their intense lyrics and dark themes. With heavy frequencies and almost hypnotic rhythms, the music can explore occultism and Satanism. For some, these songs aren't just entertainment but a source of energy that might attract negative influences. It's essential to remember that not all music in this genre is necessarily harmful, but the themes and energy can create an environment more prone to undesirable spiritual influences. Now, let's move on to electronic music and EDM. With pulsating beats and immersive atmospheres, this style can induce altered states of consciousness. Parties and events associated with this genre often involve extreme behaviors and environments where social norms may be disregarded. This environment can be seen by some as an open door to spiritual influences. It's the combination of intense rhythm and altered mental state that raises concerns. Genres that deal with sexuality explicitly, like certain styles of rap and pop, can also raise red flags. The lyrics often address themes that might be considered provocative or immoral. For some, these songs might influence behaviors and thoughts, promoting a mindset that could be seen as negative in some spiritual traditions. Experimental and avant-garde music often challenges traditional norms, using techniques and sounds that create unique atmospheres. This type of music can be seen as an invitation to an altered state of consciousness, where spiritual influences might infiltrate. Although innovative, the pursuit of new sonic experiences can, for some, open doors to influences they'd rather avoid. Finally, music that incorporates occult and esoteric themes. Genres exploring magic, rituals, and symbolism can be seen as potentially problematic. Constant exposure to these themes can create a resonance that some believe is a gateway for negative influences. Each musical style has its own impact, and the context in which it is heard can make all the difference. And that's where the devil comes into the picture. He uses these influences to create a discord in our spiritual lives. Imagine going to church, participating in worship, and loving God with all your heart, but then listening to music that goes in the opposite direction. This creates a conflict within you, a feeling of living in two different worlds. This impact also reflects in worship. Secular music can end up compromising the purity of our praise. If we're absorbing messages contrary to Christian principles, it might contaminate how we relate to God in worship. Instead of offering sincere and pure worship, we might be presenting something mixed with external influences. That's why it's important for the church to get involved and educate its members about the dangers of this influence. It's not just about what we listen to, but how it can affect our spiritual lives in ways we might not immediately notice. Music is a powerful tool, and it must be used with discernment to ensure it doesn't weaken our spiritual conviction. Let's dive into a deep topic: the spiritual battle waged by music within churches. Music, as you might know, is an incredible tool. It can inspire, comfort, and unite people in ways few other things can. But guess what? The devil also knows the power of music. And that's exactly why he uses it to spread confusion and doubt. Picture this: you're at church, listening to a worship song that seems so normal. But while everyone is focused on singing, something else is happening. The devil uses songs that, at first glance, seem good and harmless, but carry subtle messages that can divert our faith. It's not about whether the music is modern or traditional, but about what it's really conveying. It might seem harmless, but the words and tone can start to sow doubts and heresies in our minds. The battle here isn't just about musical preferences, but about the purity of worship. Music is a powerful form of expression and can be used to glorify God or, unfortunately, to divert focus from the true message of the gospel. When we're in church, we need to be alert and discern whether the music truly builds up our faith or is just entertaining us. This is a crucial issue for maintaining faithfulness to what the Bible teaches. Now, think about how the devil can be sneaky. He's not going to come into the church with a giant sign saying, "I'm here to corrupt worship." Instead, he uses subtle methods to mix truth with lies, and music is a perfect medium for that. Lyrics can be altered to include ideas that seem acceptable but end up distorting the true message. It's a spiritual game of hide and seek, and we need to be prepared to spot these traps. To face this spiritual battle, prayer and discernment are key. It's not just about singing or listening to music, but about being aware of what we're allowing into our hearts and minds. It's like we're in an invisible war, and our weapon is spiritual discernment. This way, we keep the purity of worship and resist the malignant influences that might be lurking beneath the surface. Pure worship is essential for any church. Worship shouldn't be about music style or personal preferences, but solely about God. This return to the essence is crucial because it helps us focus entirely on God and not on details that might divert our attention. To start, we need to critically assess what's happening in our celebrations. It's crucial that what we sing and play truly glorifies God in every aspect. It's not just about having a good musical performance, but about ensuring every note and word aligns with the purpose of exalting the Lord. It's like a filter that separates what is genuine from what might be superficial. Church leaders play a key role in this. They need to guide the congregation back to worship that is not only spiritual but also biblically solid. They are like guardians of true worship, ensuring we're not just following trends or fads, but keeping the focus on what's most important, God. Now, why is this so crucial? Simple: the devil has no power where there is true worship. If we create an environment where worship is genuine and true, we're creating a space where he can't act. That's why it's essential to protect and cultivate that authentic worship, so we're not deceived or led astray by negative influences. When the church is united in pure and true worship, it becomes stronger and more resilient to temptations and corruptions that may come through music and other influences. This way, we live a life of worship that not only honors God but also strengthens our faith and community. With everything we've discussed, it's crucial that we be more vigilant in choosing the music we listen to and sing in church. We need to be mindful of the messages transmitted through lyrics and rhythms and ensure they align with biblical truth. Worship should be a genuine expression of our faith and devotion to God, not a means of entertainment or pleasing people. I encourage you to evaluate the worship practices in your church and consider whether they are truly glorifying God. If you notice something that needs adjustment, don't hesitate to talk to church leaders and seek changes that promote more faithful and authentic worship. Reflect on how the music you consume outside the church might be shaping your perceptions and influencing your spirituality. Often, the influence of music manifests subtly, but it can have a profound impact on how we live our faith. Make a conscious effort to choose music that uplifts your soul and strengthens your connection with God. Music is a powerful form of expression that can shape our emotions and thoughts. While some styles might raise concerns for certain groups, the key is to be aware of what you're listening to and why. Your playlist can be a source of joy and inspiration, but it's also important to be mindful of the influences it may bring into your life. If there are practices in your church that don't seem aligned with biblical principles, consider talking to other members or leaders about your concerns. Changes can be challenging, but they're necessary to maintain spiritual integrity and ensure our worship is truly centered on Christ. If you found it intriguing how music can be a vehicle for spiritual influences in the church, you'll also want to check out our previous video, Urgent. The Spiritual Impacts of Cremation, What the Bible Says About the End of the Body. Discover how seemingly different themes can intertwine and reveal surprising depths about how the spiritual and physical connect. Click the link in the description to watch now and dive deeper into this fascinating topic.